Welcome back, everyone. We're diving into the story of Man-Bat.
Oh, this is a good one. A really unsettling one, you know?
Yeah, it's not your typical monster tale. We're going to start back in the 90s, see where it all began.
Right, the origins.
And then we'll look at how it all, echoes into the present, the 2020s.
Because it's not just a monster story, is it? It's about ambition, ethics, science gone wrong.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Consequences, too. Choices people made decades ago that are still
haunting us.
Yeah, something like that. So the 90s, we've got Dr. Kirk Langstrom, brilliant guy, bioengineer at Wayne Tech.
Top of his field, but
he's got a secret. Losing his hearing.
And this is key, I think. It's driving him, consumes him even, to find a cure.
Not just for himself either. Wants to help everyone suffering from deafness. Noble goal, right?
Absolutely. But see, that's where it gets tricky. That dedication, that drive, right. It can be blinding.
And Langstrom, he doesn't just stick to the usual research methods. He starts looking at vampire bats.
Unconventional, to say the least. And even more so, where he gets his material from. Arkham Asylum.
Yeah, specifically genetic material from an inmate.
But it tells us something about Langstrom, doesn't it? Willing to push boundaries, maybe even drawn to the, darkness of it.
So he starts experimenting. And get this, he sees some promising results. He's working with a deaf rat, Dimitri.
Classic lab rat.
And Dimitri's hearing, it starts to improve significantly.
Early success like that, it can be a trap, like a false promise.
Well, totally.
Yeah.
Because Bruce Wayne, who's running Wayne Tech at the time, finds out.
About the experiments.
The whole thing.
Yeah.
The Arkham connection, the bats, everything.
Yeah.
And he is not happy.
He's got a strong ethical code when it comes to science.
Yeah. Sees the potential for things to go really wrong. So he shuts down the project. No human trials.
And that's where Langstrom's ambition takes over. He's so convinced he's close to a breakthrough that
he goes rogue, locks himself in his lab, and starts experimenting on himself.
Hubris, right. Classic tragic flaw.
And thankfully, for us, I guess, he documents the whole thing. Audio recordings.
Chilling stuff. A front row seat to his transformation. Physical, mental, the whole thing.
It starts subtly. Heightened senses, hair loss, this crazy hunger he can't satisfy. But then
it gets bad. Teeth fall out, fangs grow in, his face, his whole body.
Distorted.
And he starts craving blood.
Like an echo of where those genes came from, right? That Arkham inmate. Almost like he's being consumed by the darkness he was trying to control.
It's like a horror movie playing out in a lab. And then there's Dimitri, the rat, escapes his cage. And, let's just say Langstrom finds him. Tapes end with the sounds of dot feeding and Langstrom screaming. But it's not human screams anymore. It's something else. Something monstrous.
The birth of Man-Bat. And it's not a clean break. It's this slow, agonizing descent. And the tapes, they put you right there with him. And Gotham gets its first taste of what this means. Gruesome deaths start happening in the Narrows. Victims, all drained of blood. Witnesses describe this huge, bat-like creature.
Nightmare fuel.
Totally. And then someone manages to get a video. Grainy, but you can see this thing, this monstrous bat, climbing a tower, then taking off into the night.
Cementing the legend.
Exactly. So there you have it, Man-Bat. Born from good intentions, but twisted by ambition, desperation, and maybe a little too much faith in science.
And even back then, people were saying his appearances, they lined up with bad times in Gotham. Like he was drawn to the darkness of the city.
Interesting. Like a harbinger.
Maybe. And that connection between Man-Bat and the dark side of Gotham, it gets even stronger as we move into the 2020s. Because his story doesn't end there. Right. Not even close.
Decades later, Man-Bat is still out there. Still a presence in Gotham.
It's like he never really went away.
More than just spooky stories, too. People keep seeing him. And there's this scientist.
Trying to follow in Langstrom's footsteps.
Kinda, yeah. But we'll get to him later. First, I gotta ask, what about Wayne Powers? They're the successors to Wayne Tech, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's their take on the whole Man-Bat mess?
Publicly, they condemn it wholeheartedly.
Damage control?
Probably. Trying to distance themselves. Say Langstrom was a rogue scientist acting alone.
But that's a bit convenient, isn't it? I mean, it all happened at Wayne Tech. They gave him the resources.
Exactly. The lab, the funding, the whole setup. So where's their accountability?
Makes you wonder, what did they know? Were there any safeguards? Or were they turning a blind eye because maybe?
They saw potential profit.
Maybe. It's a bad look for them, for sure.
Definitely raises questions about corporate responsibility, ethics versus profit, a theme we see a lot, unfortunately.
And then there are the rumors about other bat creatures outside Gotham.
Oh, you mean the sightings in South America? Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, giant bat-like things. Could those be connected to Langstrom's work?
It's possible. And that's where things get really unsettling. Because if Langstrom's formula got out,
If it's not just contained to Gotham,
it could be a global threat. Think about the implications. We might not even be able to control it.
we might not even know the full extent of it yet.
Exactly.
And back in Gotham, people are still seeing Man-Bat. Always these glimpses, these shadows.
And you know what's interesting? Those sightings often happen when there's trouble in the city.
Really?
Like he's drawn to it, the chaos, the fear, almost like he feeds off it.
Creepy. So not just a monster, but a symbol.
A symbol of Gotham's dark side, the stuff that's always lurking beneath the surface.
And that brings us to Dr. Abel Cuvier. This is where things get complicated.
Ah, yes. Cuvier. A controversial figure.
He's a geneticist. And he believes Langstrom was onto something. Something big.
Despite the horrific results.
Cuvier thinks Langstrom was ahead of his time. That his work, if done ethically with the right safeguards,
It could lead to incredible breakthroughs. In medicine, even cosmetic enhancements.
he really thinks there's a way to harness that power for good.
He does, and that's what makes him so dangerous. Because his critics, they say it's a Pandora's box. You mess with the genetic code like that.
There's no going back.
Exactly. And it's not just accidents they're worried about. What if someone intentionally tries to recreate Man-Bat? To weaponize it?
That's a terrifying thought.
It is. And Cuvier, even with the best intentions, he's playing with fire, walking a very thin line.
One wrong step. And who knows what could happen? It's a lot to take in, isn't it? A monster, a mystery, a whole scientific and ethical mess, and it's all tied back to this one guy, decades ago.
Langstrom's legacy, hard to shake.
Especially with what's happening now, those sightings, those rumors. It's like Man-Bat's become this symbol.
Of what, exactly?
Well, I guess. Our fear of the unknown, our anxiety about science going too far.
Yeah, I see that. We're living in this time of incredible scientific progress. But there's a dark side to it. A feeling like we might be losing control.
Like opening a door we can't close.
And Man-Bat, he embodies that, doesn't he? This creature born from science, but twisted into something.
Unpredictable. Dangerous.
And maybe contagious. We still don't know, do we? If it's just one Man-Bat or
multiple. Or if it could spread. That's the scariest part. The not knowing.
Makes you look over your shoulder, doesn't it? Wonder what's lurking in the shadows.
And then you've got Cuvier, trying to pick up where Langstrom left off. Thinking he can control it. Use it for good.
The road to hell is paved with good intentions, right?
That's what worries me. Even if Cuvier's right, even if there is a way to harness this,
Power.
the risks are enormous.
It's like he's playing with fire, and we might all get burned.
Man-Bat's story, it's a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked ambition, about the unintended consequences of scientific progress.
And maybe about the monsters we create, not just in labs, but in ourselves. Our greed, our hubris.
The things we're willing to sacrifice in the pursuit of knowledge or power.
Yeah. So we started with a monster, but I think we ended up with something bigger. A question about what it means to be human in this age of scientific breakthroughs, where we draw the line, what price are we willing to pay, and who decides? Questions we all need to be asking, I think, before it's too late.
That's Man-Bat for you. A monster, a mystery, and a mirror, reflecting some of our deepest fears about ourselves and the world we're creating. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.